Why does being admired feel like wearing someone else's face? You'd think praise would fill you. It empties you instead, and nobody warns you that the better you perform, the less of you is left to come home to. I used to think the goal was to become someone people could rely on. I was wrong. The opposite is what saved me, and it cost me everything I'd built to be liked. Stay with that for a second. We'll come back to the face. When did you start managing yourself like a brand? You don't notice the day it happens. There's no announcement. One morning you simply wake up and run the math before you've had water. Who needs me today? Who's disappointed? Who I have to be by noon? I made a whole video about the feeling that arrives at 2:14 in the morning, the one nobody talks about. This is its daylight version, the same emptiness, except now you're being thanked for it. Here's the texture of it. A reputation is not a mirror. It's a costume that learned to stand up on its own. And the better it fits, the more it walks around without you inside. You think you're improving yourself. You're not. You're maintaining a building that other people live in, and you've been sleeping in the lobby. What are you actually running from when you say you're being productive? Watch yourself when there's nothing to do. Not rest, nothing. No task, no message, no one needing the version of you that gets things done. For most people, that silence is unbearable within 90 seconds. So you fill it. You always fill it. You keep moving so the damp doesn't settle into you, the way you wave clothes in the air after a storm, because the moment the doing stops, a question stands up in the room and looks at you. If I'm not useful, am I still anyone? Productivity isn't ambition for these people. It's anesthesia with a to-do list. And the cruelty is that it works, which is exactly why you never stop long enough to meet the person it's numbing. When everyone leans on you, who do you get to fall toward? Being the strong one feels like a virtue until you notice it's a one-way valve. Everything flows in. Nothing is built to flow back. People bring you their collapse and call you a rock. And a rock, remember, is something you stand on. There's a specific loneliness here that admiration disguises. It's the calm between waves, where you brace for the next one instead of resting. You are surrounded constantly by people who would be genuinely surprised to learn you were drowning because you taught them you don't. Being needed isn't intimacy. It's a role with no exit written into the script. Here's the thread tying all of it together. Reputation, productivity, strength. They feel like three different problems. They're one. Each is a way of being seen that quietly replaces being known. And admiration is the most dangerous of all because it's the version of distance that looks like closeness. It's a hot stove you keep your hand near because the warmth feels like company. People clap for the costume, and every clap teaches you to wear it tighter. You become more visible and less reachable in the same motion. The people who admire you most have often never met you. They've met your usefulness in good lighting. So what does it actually cost? Being the one who's fine? It costs you the ability to be helped, not the right to ask. The ability. You can dial the words, but something in you no longer knows how to receive the answer. The hand reaches out and yours has forgotten the shape of taking. It's a door that opens only outward. People can leave through you, but no one can come in. And here's the part that frightened me. After enough years of performing okayness, I couldn't tell anymore where the performance ended and I began. I'd ask myself how I actually felt and get static. The costume had grown into the skin. How do you find yourself again when you've been the role for so long? It doesn't start with a breakthrough. It starts with a failure you can't hide. A day the performance simply won't load. You snap at someone who didn't deserve it, or you sit in the car in the driveway, unable to walk in and be on for one more person. By the way, I'm Kate. I'm not a psychologist. I just stopped being able to perform one day and had to learn what was underneath. Back to the driveway, that crack you're so afraid of. Light only gets in through the part that broke. The collapse isn't the failure of the self. It's the first honest thing the self has done in years. What's actually under there when the roll goes quiet? Less than you fear and more than you hoped. Underneath isn't a hero and isn't a wreck. It's something smaller and far harder to perform. A person with ordinary needs who got told somewhere young that needs were a liability. So you turned yourself into a supply. You were a plant kept alive by watering everyone else's. You weren't being generous all those years. Not only, you were being safe. Usefulness was the one form of love that felt like it couldn't be taken away because you were the one producing it. Give it away and you control it. Need it back and you don't. That's the whole trade. And you made it before you were old enough to refuse. Why does the thought of just stopping feel like dying? Because to the part of you that built all this, it is a death. The costume isn't lying to you when it panics. It genuinely believes it's the only thing holding the room's regard in place, that the second you're ordinary, the admiration leaves, and you're alone with the one person you've spent a lifetime avoiding being alone with. It's the vertigo of looking down and finding no net was ever there. Letting the performance fall isn't losing yourself. It's meeting the self the performance was hired to replace. What does it feel like the first time you let someone hold you? Strange, almost unbearable. The first time you answer, "How are you?" with something true and let it land instead of deflecting. Your whole body wants to take it back, make a joke, return the question. Receiving feels like falling because you've only ever practiced standing. It's the way muscles shake the first time they're allowed to rest, mistaking stillness for collapse. But that shaking isn't weakness arriving. It's strength you were never allowed to put down, finally being set on the ground. And what about the people who only loved the costume? Some will leave. That's the fear, and it's a real one. Take the costume off, and a few of the admirers wander off looking for another rock. Let them. They were warming their hands. They were never coming inside. Remember the face we started with, the one that felt like someone else's? Here's what no one tells you about taking it off. The people who stay after you do are the first ones in your life who are actually staying for you. Fewer hands, realer ones. Being admired by many and known by no one isn't connection. It's the most crowded way a person can be alone. So here's what I'd hand back to you. Everything you built, the reliability, the output, the strength others lean on, none of it was a lie. It was love, pointed in the only direction that felt safe. You don't have to burn it down. You just have to turn 1 degree of it inward. The same care you pour outward, aimed once today at the person performing all of it. None of this is your fault. The world taught you that being useful was the rent you pay for taking up space. But learning to be a person instead of a supply, that part is yours now, not as a burden, as the first thing you get to do for no one's approval but your own. You don't have to wear the face anymore. You were never the costume. You were the one underneath, waiting to be met. So tell me, below, when was the last time someone asked how you were and you actually told them the truth? What happened in your body when you did? I read every single one. Thank you for existing, and thank you for surviving this far with me.